The Maze Runner by James Dashner begins with a teenage boy awakening inside a dark metal elevator called the Box, with no memory of his past life, family, or even his own name, except that his name is Thomas. When the box rises and opens, Thomas is greeted by a group of boys who call their strange home the Glade, a large grassy clearing surrounded by towering stone walls. The Glade is entirely enclosed by a massive maze whose walls shift every night, making escape seemingly impossible. The boys explain that they all arrived the same way Thomas did, one boy per month, delivered by the box, with no memories except their names. The Gladers have formed a structured society with assigned jobs, including cooks, builders, medjacks, and runners, who are responsible for mapping the maze during the daytime when its doors are open. Every night, the maze closes and deadly biomechanical creatures called grievers roam inside, killing anyone trapped there. Thomas struggles to adapt, confused and frustrated by the rules, but he is immediately drawn to the maze and feels a powerful, inexplicable connection to it. Thomas learns about the Glade's leaders, Albie and Newt, who enforce strict rules to maintain order and survival. One of the most important rules is that no one except runners may enter the maze, and no one may remain inside after dark. Thomas meets Miho, the top runner, who explains how the maze constantly changes, making it impossible to solve despite years of effort. The Gladers survive by farming and livestock and occasionally receive supplies through the box. They also receive strange metal devices known as the changing serum, which can temporarily restore fragments of memory but causes extreme pain and psychological trauma. Thomas is increasingly unsettled by vivid dreams about scientists, a woman calling his name, and the sense that he somehow helped design the maze. Female ever sent to the Glade. Even more shocking, she arrives in a coma clutching a note that reads, "She's the last one. Ever." Teresa's arrival disrupts the fragile stability of the Glade, and Thomas feels a deep emotional and mental connection to her, including the ability to communicate telepathically. Teresa's presence triggers strange changes in the maze and the world beyond it, suggesting that the experiment governing the Glade is reaching its final phase. Thomas repeatedly breaks rules due to his curiosity and instincts, especially when he impulsively enters the maze to save Miho and Albie, who are trapped inside overnight with a griever. Despite having no training, Thomas helps them survive by using the maze's structure and outsmarting the creature, proving his courage and intelligence. This act earns him both punishment and respect, and he is eventually made a runner, an unprecedented decision given his short time in the Glade. As a runner, Thomas begins to notice patterns in the maze that others overlooked, particularly that the maze's sections form a coded message when mapped over time. As tensions rise, the environment grows more hostile. The grievers begin entering the Glade itself, something that never happened before, killing several boys and creating chaos. The leaders realize that the rules of the maze are changing because the experiment is nearing completion. Teresa awakens from her coma and reveals that the world outside the maze has been devastated by solar flares and a deadly disease known as the flare, which turns people insane. The maze, she implies, is part of a test designed by an organization called Wicked to study the minds of immune teenagers in order to find a cure. Thomas and Teresa work together to decode the maze's final message, which leads them to a hidden exit guarded by a griever hole. Thomas proposes a dangerous plan, deliberately triggering griever attacks to gather the serum needed to unlock the exit, knowing it could result in death. Though terrified, the remaining Gladers agree, recognizing that staying in the Glade means certain doom. In a climactic battle, the boys fight grievers, suffering losses but ultimately managing to reach the exit. Thomas, Teresa, and the survivors escape through the maze, only to discover that their ordeal is far from over. The novel's first part concludes with the Gladers leaving the maze and being told they have completed Phase 1 of the experiment, revealing that their suffering was deliberately orchestrated. The ending reframes everything the boys endured as a controlled test rather than random cruelty, setting up the moral ambiguity of Wicked and the larger conflict of the series. Part 2 begins after Thomas and the surviving Gladers escape the maze through the Griever Hole, believing they are finally being rescued. They are taken to a facility where armed adults claim to be employees of Wicked, the organization that created the maze. The boys are told that the maze was an experiment designed to test their intelligence, courage, and ability to work together under extreme pressure, all in the hope of finding a cure for the flare, a deadly disease that has ravaged the world. At first, the Gladers feel relief, thinking their suffering is over, but this sense of safety quickly fades. Thomas remains suspicious and begins to notice inconsistencies in the adults' behavior and the environment around them. Soon, chaos erupts when the group discovers that the adults who claim to be their rescuers have been brutally murdered, and the facility is overrun by infected humans known as cranks, people driven insane by the flare. The Gladers realize that this rescue was part of another test rather than true freedom. They are forced to escape once again, navigating a ruined world filled with danger, violence, and fear. As they flee, Thomas experiences more memories returning, strengthening his belief that he played a role in helping design the trials. His guilt grows as he realizes that much of what the group has suffered may be partly his fault. During their escape, the group encounters new threats and is separated into smaller factions. Trust within the group begins to break down, especially as Teresa becomes more distant and emotionally withdrawn. Thomas's telepathic connection with her weakens, and she starts acting in ways that confuse and hurt him. Eventually, Wicked agents recapture the Gladers, revealing that everything that happened after the maze escape was also staged. The deaths, the cranks, and the fear were all carefully controlled to push the Gladers' minds to their limits. At the end of Part 2, the survivors are told that they have completed Phase 1 of the trials and will now move on to Phase 2. Thomas learns that his memories and Teresa's will be erased again before the next phase begins. Despite everything, Wicked insists that their actions are justified because they believe the ends justify the means. The section ends with a chilling sense of betrayal and uncertainty, making it clear that escaping the maze was only the beginning of a much larger and more dangerous experiment. Part 3 focuses on the aftermath of the trials and reveals the true nature of Wicked's experiment. After completing Phase 1, Thomas and the remaining Gladers are told that their memories will be erased again in preparation for Phase 2. However, before this can happen, Thomas secretly regains most of his memories and learns crucial information about Wicked. He discovers that the organization believes the suffering they caused is necessary to save humanity from the flare, a disease that has destroyed the world and turned many people into violent, unstable cranks. Wicked's motto, "Wicked is good," becomes central to the story, as it reflects the moral conflict between survival and cruelty. Thomas learns that Teresa and a few others were intended to work with Wicked from the beginning, and that some of their actions during the trials were manipulated to provoke emotional stress among the group. This realization deeply shakes Thomas, as he struggles to understand whether Teresa betrayed him willingly or was forced into her role. As more memories return, Thomas becomes overwhelmed with guilt, knowing that he helped design parts of the maze and the trials, even though his memories had been taken away. The Gladers soon learn that not all of Wicked's employees agree with the organization's methods. A group of scientists secretly helps Thomas, Teresa, and the others escape the facility, believing that the trials have gone too far and that the teenagers deserve freedom. During the escape, the facility falls into chaos as cranks overrun the building, attacking both the scientists and the test subjects. Several characters are injured or killed, emphasizing the dangerous state of the world outside the maze. In the final moments, Thomas and the surviving Gladers are taken to a safe location by people who oppose Wicked. They are told that they will no longer be part of the experiments and that they can finally live without being controlled. However, the ending reveals that Wicked has not truly been defeated and continues its research elsewhere. The story closes with uncertainty about whether Wicked's actions were justified and whether a cure for the flare will ever be found, leaving readers to question the cost of saving humanity.